Bonjour and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And on Spotlight, we are always doing our very best to bring to you persons who are transforming our community in the direction of light. And on this edition of Spotlight, we are happy to engage Cyprian Nyamwamo. He's been here before, I mean, you really gave a lot of feedback concerning the conversation that we had and the views that he expressed and just the perspectives. And he's back with us again. And just to remind us that Cyprian is a policy expert. He is also executive director of Future of Kenya Foundation, and in every way a thought leader in matters governance. And so we are happy to have you. And our country continues to be in a place that is generating a lot of conversation. And so we'll be asking ourselves, we'll be asking this question here, and you're welcome to participate in it. The question is, can a government love its people? Can a government love its people? Cyprian, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome
Reverend.
back.
Thank you so much, Reverend.
You know, the last
Very
time,
happy to be back.
the last time we were here, the perspectives were quite groundbreaking. You know, there were some fresh perspectives that
God, yeah.
that became that generated conversation even beyond this program. So welcome back.
I'm very happy to be back here. Hope TV. Hope is really what the country
Yeah.
requires right now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Hope is what a country needs. When hope is not there, people can't see a future, so they become fatalistic. So it's very good to be back here and to love our country. Even as we ask the question of, can a government love
It's people.
its people? Can people love their country? Yes, we
yeah.
can love our country.
Yeah, because you see, there are many ways of understanding the government and how it relates with its people.
Exactly.
And when you look at the scriptures, one of the very interesting images that that is given repeatedly about God and His people Israel is kind of a marriage relationship,
Yes,
right?
yes,
There's a lover here. There is a slippery loved, you know, and I mean there are some entire books in scriptures that are about love and they directly relate with God expressing His relationship
Yes.
with the people. I imagine a book like Hosea, for instance,
Yes, yes,
which
yes.
is a whole mirror, you know, of God, His people in a marriage context. And I mean, you just cited now about one thing that is very clear that we are called upon to do a lot of times is that the people are called to love their country, right? And we'll engage that. But before we do that, can a country love its people back?
That is actually the subject of what can be done, because people love their families and therefore they love their country. Every family wants the best for its children, its family members. We take care of our parents like they took care of us. So most people actually love their country. They go even at lengths, like those who go to Saudi Arabia and all these countries, to labor, to earn money so that they can send it back home. That's how you love your country, part of it. It is when it gets to the area of governance and politics that then people become disillusioned because they do not know how government loves them. They do not know how government loves them. Most African governments have failed to love their people. They have basically taken to ruling the people, And there is an important write-up on African leadership and African government, which says that the tragedy of Africa is that a lot of the people who rise to government are psychopaths. they go there to look for power and a position to increase their wealth. And that's why we have all these internal conflicts and everything else that we see. So the point we are making here tonight is that, in fact, it is a responsibility of government to love its people like a father loves his family. Because the father is the principal and the pole, the pillar of the family in Africa. We go out to, look for suitors to become our wives, and then we raise families, and we become servants of our family. Although we are the heads, we actually become the servants of our family. That is the idea of government, to be like a father. You are taking responsibility. Things sometimes are said that are not right. Your children sometimes don't behave well, but because you love them so much, you remember that you need to protect them, you need to provide for them, you need to, you need to be present for them so that you can be able to hear what they need and provide.
In a way, just
those 3 P's of, I didn't want to go to the 5 P's of a father. I just stopped at the 3 because I don't know how to say that government needs to be the pastor and priest of the family and all that. So I kept it to government as to every morning, ask, how am I providing for my people through policy, through programs? How are we protecting the people, And apart from that, it is about how to be present. By being present, you listen, and you actually use your intelligence system, you use your universities, you use your professors, and everybody else. You listen to the bishops and the pastors and all the people out there who are telling you, this is what the people are saying and what you need to do. So that is how to love, like a father does.
Let's do that image of a father.
Yes.
And look at the present Kenyan situation. And a lot of tension, definitely. And we can't deny the fact that there is a crisis.
There is a crisis.
But what's coming out from both the end of the government and also the opposition is it's kind of a stereotyped, a kind of expression of power, whereby it seems like a leader, it's assumed that a leader should be militant and negatively aggressive, right? I'm just trying to see how the father image fits with what we see most of the times, aggression and militancy. Can you relate that?
Fathers in Christian, in our faith, and even in our African setup, fathers are there. Everybody knows they are there, and they are powerful, and they, provide direction and everything else. And there are some fathers who are very cruel. We were brought up by fathers who are a little bit harsh, and we thought that their discipline was tough. Now, the way we are parenting now is that the cane is not the first resort when we are disciplining our sons and our daughters, even when they are not on the right path. You see that it is now a relationship of your authority is not felt when you are cruel and harsh. It is when you call them in and seek accountability. You seek accountability so that they take responsibility for their actions. So right now, the image of leadership and of government, that government wants to be known that it's there by unleashing lethal. Those are things, and this is not, I don't want to do comparative politics here, but the general principle in political science is to say this: you cannot use Kenyan guns to kill Kenyans. You don't use Kenyan taxes to kill Kenyans. It is not right. And the argument from government is that why were they demonstrating and destroying property? That is where we have given you And Bishop Olesapit said this to the former Minister for Interior, Matiang'i, at Fungamano one day. He told him, but that is why we have given you non-lethal weaponry and huge capacity, including vehicles that we have bought for government and the police, which are called armored personnel vehicles, meaning that even stones do not destroy them. And you've seen them. So we've equipped government to do modern governing. And so the excuses of using lethal firepower is actually very unfortunate. You've seen France has been out in the streets for 8 weeks. Not a single person has died. And because people know that the police are not coming to kill them, but they will arraign anybody who destroys something in court. People generally go to demonstrations and they do not try to destroy property. So therefore, in simple terms, government is the one which creates the arena, defines the arena of engagement. And there are 4 C's in engagement with government and the people. We call them the 4 C's. The first C is of confrontation. The second C is of what we call cooperation. The third C is what we call cooptation. And then there's the 4th C of engagement with government, which is called constructive engagement, which is what we did a lot of the time during Kibaki. I'll tell you one story. We were demonstrating to Nyayo House. And because we wanted Nyayo House to be opened because there was a lot of torture there, and we wanted the torture chambers opened to the public, and it declared a national monument of shame. So Kiraitu Murungi called me, and he asked, so what are you demonstrating on the street about? Why didn't you come to my office? My office is open to you. So why are you on the street demonstrating instead of coming to government? That's what we call constructive engagement. So instead of saying, unleash the police on them, he called me. He said, you are actually misguided because you are demonstrating, yet we have not said no to that request. So what are you doing on the street? And it was a point of reflection for me, because I was saying, why did we mobilize people to march towards Nyayo House to make a demand before we even presented a request to the government through the Ministry of Constitutional Affairs? So you see, it is the ministry, the government of Kibaki created this environment where it was constructive engagement. But when a government comes down with force, then confrontation becomes the natural thing that happens. So that becomes the relationship and engagement type with the people. So those 4 C's are actually not defined by the people. They are defined by the state. The government is the one which defines how the public is going to engage them.
Okay. You know, and well put. I like that the illustration there,
Yes.
and how you were taken aback, because you know, you almost feel that you jumped a step.
Completely.
And if without exhausting that, then you should have maybe exhausted that space before going to the next one. And even at that time, the response of government was like, come, let us talk about this, you know, not unleashing, as you say, force. Now, we want to stay with that because one of the most cited descriptions lately in the last few weeks of the leadership in this country, and now staying with the theme of love, knowing that the leaders are the agents, through which the love of government reaches the people, is one by Archbishop Muheria, who said that Kenya's leadership, he used like four words: arrogant, rough, insulting, and imposing. Now, how do you now bring the love philosophy to this kind of leadership?
Those words have to change because the leadership has to be approachable. You see, those 4 words only create an environment where engagement can only be confrontational. Because the argument from the side of the people is, you cannot be imposing on us. When Article 73 of the Constitution says that the authority of a state officer is an opportunity to serve, is a responsibility to serve, not power to rule. That's what the Constitution says. So we are saying, under the current context, the government needs to understand what is expected of the officials in government, because they are citizens like us, and we have given them a mandate to serve us. So that's why I gave the example of a father. You are the one who formed this family, and you are generally the most powerful person in that family. But then you realize that you are the one actually who is the greatest servant in that family. Okay? Not that mothers are less of servants, but if fathers do not take the leadership in the role of provision, of protection, of being present, then those families generally don't do very well. So we are the most powerful, yet we are the most expected. The obligations and responsibilities are higher. So you have to now turn, as Archbishop Muheria was suggesting, from this imposing, rough, insulting, to a new language of even the president sending out a tweet. Instead of sending a tweet, place the call. Change how you do it. Before, use the institutions. Ensure that you are welcoming, that you are caring. So the language of love has to be intentional. Because we don't love people because they are always good. We love people because they're ours. We love them because they're ours. And we know that it's our responsibility to raise them, to serve them, to mold them, so that they can be able to bring out the best potential in them. And the last point that I want to make, which is why this love conversation is very important, and especially to the current administration, is because President Kenyatta had 7 million people. President Kenyatta was a president of 7 million people. President Moi retired when he only had 29 million people in 2002. President Kibaki left when he had 38 million people. President Uhuru left when he had about 50 million people. President Ruto has taken over when he has 52 million people to be president over. Now, the thing about this presidency is that he has 17 million unemployed people. There's no other president who has been a president over 17 million unemployed people. President Kenyatta did not have a single unemployed person. President Moi did not have unemployed people. President Kibaki had a few, and Uhuru Kenyatta. But they had a base, they had a place to create wealth from. Either they were hawkers or matatu touts, or they were small business traders and that kind of thing.
There was
a base, there was an economic base, there was something to do to raise income for your family. So President Ruto now takes over from a broken government. A lot of people have not been sincere to tell this country that President Uhuru did not do well on the side of the economy. He undermined the economy through policies, especially the binge borrowing and things like that. So he handed over a not so good economy to President Ruto. But remember, President Ruto was in that administration. That is the thing that speaks of dishonesty on the side of the current president. He was part of that. So you now inherit a country that has just come from COVID-19. This was not caused by Uhuru. The COVID-19 effects were big. Then we went into an electioneering year. And so the president takes over the economy from at a time when there are 17 million people who do not have incomes. So if you go to Migori, or you go to Meru, you go to Nyeri, you go to Kisii, you go to Kwale, there are these Murang'a here, There are these men that are on the roadside at 10 a.m. in the morning, and we call them the socially internal displaced people, socially and economically IDPs. Kenya now has about 17 million socio-economic IDPs. They are internally displaced. They can't stay at home. They have to go to the shopping centers. There are no industries in this country. So that is what, you don't fight those ones. And the second thing is that you avoid maandamano. This, I'm now speaking to Azimio. You do not call maandamano in an economy where there are 17 million IDPs. Because in Kangemi, near to where I live, what happened immediately is that when maandamano is called, the first place that everybody wants to go to is Quick Mart, Naivas, to grab something, unga, bread, something to make an income and a livelihood from. So don't do maandamano the way we used to do them in 2005. Things have changed. The economic base is eroded. There are very many people. A lot of the people who used to demonstrate in the Moi, the Kibaki era, were employed people. So they used to know that I'm going to give the demonstration 2 hours, go back to the office and go back home.
Yeah, and university students too.
University students.
They're engaged.
They were engaged. They knew they need to go back to the hostels. So this is not the same country we had 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So you have to be responsible. And the government should avoid things that plunge the public to the streets.
I like what you say, that you don't fight 17 million
No.
Unemployed people.
No.
And you also don't provoke,
Yes.
17 million unemployed
Exactly,
people.
exactly.
You mentioned the tweet from the president extending a welcome to Raila Odinga. And that has been widely interpreted. And some have taken it as good-spirited. Others have taken it as maybe too unofficial, and others have taken it as maybe a response to the international community for them to see that something is happening in terms of reconciliation. So too many angles to it. And I just want to ask you again, what's your read? Is it, especially in terms of peace, is it an indication that peace, that the president is willing actually to negotiate peace with Raila Odinga?
The president, let me speak about the tweet first, then I'll comment on the second part of the inquiry you've made. His Excellency the President is the one who is a politician. He knows that when he was campaigning last year and was not president, he was taking advantage and opportunity of everything that President Uhuru was not doing well. So he was saying the president is increasing the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity. He needs to bring down the cost of tax. He needs to bring down the... That is what politicians do. They are very opportunistic. He is one of them. He knows how opportunistic he is. And he is now the one who is supplying Raila with the opportunities for the questioning and all that. Frankly speaking, it is the Finance Act that has given life back to Azimio. Azimio was out completely. And the problem with the tweet is it is that it cheapens the problem. It oversimplifies the problem in Kenya. The problem in Kenya is not Raila Odinga. So inviting him to talk through that method of invitation, you've already seen the response from Azimio, is that we have nothing to talk to Ruto about. Let him address the Finance Act and lower the cost of living for the people of Kenya. That's not how you do talks. So you need to ask mediators. We have them. And I know what the church leaders and other people have been doing in this country, reaching out to both sides, the president and all that. And one of the things that has come out of those shuttle diplomacy activities is the realization that a handshake and agreement between Raila and the Right Honorable Raila and His Excellency the President is not going to sort it out this time round. That a handshake between, that's what we call an intra-elite pact, will not sort it out because of the 17 million that we are talking about. Those are the people the president should be addressing. Trying to show that the problem is a Raila problem is not going to cut it, and especially the way he has done it.
That's quite insightful there.
Yes. So if you listen to all the religious leaders, they have been saying, we want broad-based, multi-sectoral dialogue in this country. Because, and I'm using the statement that was issued by the religious leaders, especially the church last week, it was very clear, whether from Karen or from Mufungamano or from Kisumu, it's very consistent. They are saying there are issues that this government has refused, not the Ruto government, the Kibaki government, the Moi government, the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, now the Ruto. All those four governments have refused to address 8 issues. And it's because we've not addressed those 8 issues over the last 60 years that we find ourselves in this current problem. Repeatedly. So elections only provide what we call the trigger. But after the handshakes, the issues are not addressed. So this time, the religious leaders are saying, no, the way to love this country and to serve it and to care for it, we want broad-based, multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder dialogue. Not to accuse government, not to accuse the opposition, but to really now look at our country and say, what do we do? Because you can accuse President William Ruto all you want about corruption. But corruption was there in the Uhuru Kenyatta government. It was there in the Moi government. It was there in the Kibaki administration. So it's a waste of time. As we said in the last conversation here, Ruto is actually not the problem. Neither is it Raila. Let us come together as the people of Kenya and start with our first R. How do we go back to restoring values in this country?
Let's stay with that, restoring values.
Through the dialogue process and agreeing on how to solve this country's problems.
Okay.
Because we are going to get another president and we'll stay with those problems.
Let's stay with that. Quite interesting there, Cyprian, that the handshake won't do it this time.
It will not
It has to take a different approach. So that calls for innovation and a lot of genius. But at the same time, addressing issues in a broad base kind of perspective. We're taking a short break. Viewer, we are talking about the government loving its people. And we are taking a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. This is Spotlight.
This week on Testify.
You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. You'll be witnesses to the ends of the earth. The strength to push. All I was thinking is, my life is not progressing. My life is not progressing. What do I need to do? I need money. I need money. And so because of that, I fell into temptation ya kutafuta do. I signed a record deal, and for a year in 2019, I sang secular music. I got a lot of backlash. Trended in Twitter. I was like, people even know me. You serious, you guys? Watch out. You actually what?
Only on Hope TV. Look and live.
With power, you will receive power.
Alhamisi saa 1 machweo kwenye runinga ya Hope TV.
Jambo ambalo lilikuwa linaonekana kawaida ni kwamba kama msichana ama fulana anataka kazi, kuna mambo ambayo itabidi afanye. Aidha akubali ama asipate kazi.
Baadhi ya wazee labda ni wanywaji pombe, jambo ambalo serikali yapiga vita sana, pombe haramu hasa. Labda mkewe pia anakosa kumshughulikia, namwambia basi kule ambako ulitakulewa nenda kale kule. Hapo ni dhulma ipi sasa? Ni dhulma ya mume amedhulumiwa ama ni mke amedhulumiwa?
Mama si hata anakataa kumpatia chakula, lakini anasema uwajibike. Lakini kwa sababu mzee ndiye mwenye nyumba, ndiye mwenye plot, ndiye anamiliki mali, anaambia sasa wewe kwa sababu unipati chakula uende.
Tukutane mizani.
Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are engaging the question, can the government love its people? And quite some insights coming to us from our guests on this edition of Spotlight. Cyprian Nyamwamu, who is a thought leader in governance. And we were just engaging before the break the tweet that the president has sent out and what that really means. Does it bring an honest invitation for peace and talks that will lead to the end of the tension and the going on of the progression of this country? And Cyprian, you are helping us to engage that before we went for the break.
Yeah, so there's something that needs to return. The topic we are talking about and the tweet, we are basically saying, what is the spirit that God has given us? He has given us a spirit of love, of power, and of a sound mind. Now, we need this material and this process of bringing the country to the table to be based on principles of honesty and of respect. In fact, the central language in all the statements that have been issued is that, can you move from madharau to heshima? Move from madharau to heshima. Because when there is heshima, what happens is that even how the president addresses the other leaders and how the leaders address the president changes completely, and it ought to change. Question is, where does it start? And we don't want to go into the cyclic thing of blaming. So when you want Raila to call the Azimio family to sit with government, you have to remember why the demonstrations were started in the first place. The demonstrations were started because Azimio does not have parliament. Azimio does not have parliament. That is why they don't see that they can be able to make any progressive talks and yield anything in a captured parliament. The president ordered MPs to defy and ignore public participation, and what the people said, 93% of Kenyans said don't pass the finance bill. It was passed against, and this is what Omtata is in. We spoke about Omtata going to court. He went to court. We now know the issues that came from the court decision. So the way to move forward is to look for the people in the country who not only communicate well. John Maxwell says, why so many people communicate but they do not, very few connect. To love a country, you need to go beyond communicating and look for how to connect with the people. So that they not only know what you are saying, but actually connect with you.
Let's stay with that, because one of the things that is also a very sensitive matter in this present political season is that there was a legal, a legitimate public participation process.
Yes.
And all groups reported clearly that the majority of the people spoke and said they do not want the the finance bill,
And the
IT
taxes to be
and the
increased.
taxes to be increased, specifically that. So in terms of loving, one of the big things about a marriage
Yes.
is communication, right?
Correct.
A marriage, communication is more like the blood, that takes the oxygen to the organs, right?
Exactly, exactly.
And now when the people seem to be ignored, right, by what you earlier on talked about, the father,
Yes.
who is the grand agency, right? Can you engage that?
That's very, very important because, and I wanted us to deal with the tweet that let the president look for the go-betweens, and he knows them. They are available to him. He is the head of state. One of the things that we were taught is that anything a head of state requests any citizen to do for his or her country, they do. Whether you are in the opposition or you are in government, it doesn't matter where you are. Once your head of state requests that you do something, you do it. Because we only have one head of state. So the president knows how to reach out to the other side and to every other group in the country. And there are methods that dignify people and give them respect. So that is something that is very important because we expect our children to respect us, but don't we respect our children? In your house, you don't just bang into your daughter's or your son's room because you are the father. No. You ask, are you there? Yes. Do you have a minute? There's something I needed to inquire from you. That doesn't lower your authority. No, it does not.
Respect is
Respect
it's not just an activity, but it's part of the culture.
Is a culture, really. I mean, you put it so well. It's a culture. So that is how I wanted to respond to that. Let the president use the people he has. They are available to him to know how to cultivate a culture of reciprocity and respect and to put a country together, because the Constitution in Article 132, I think, calls on the president to remain as the symbol of national unity. Symbol of national unity. That's a very heavy task, very heavy task. Now, we come to the people feeling unheard. And I want to use Kisii. Kisii has never conducted demonstrations since independence, anti-government demonstrations. You saw the kinds of demonstrations that were there. In fact, there were riots. What the country is telling the president and the government is that if you don't listen to us, whose government are you? We told you we have just come from COVID. We have hardly started even to pay full salary. Where my wife used to work, they took a 60% salary cut. And people are hurting economically. People are starting to open business. They are looking for loans to. So they are saying, no, you cannot increase taxes. Your priorities are not right. We are not opposed to this idea of building houses for the people. We don't have a problem with. Listen, right now we are at a place where we need to revive this economy so that we reopen it, the base to increase from where you can collect tax. So don't kill us because you are killing the goose that lays the golden egg. That's the message that the president and parliament was given. They refused to listen. 93%, whether you're talking about Kenya Manufacturers Association, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, you're talking about trade unions, workers, organizations, all the people submitted, they said, don't increase the taxes that will kill production. When you increase fuel cost and you increase the cost of electricity, you actually increase the cost of living across the board. So they said, don't do that. Relieve us on this side so that you increase consumption taxes, not production taxes. Increase consumption taxes. And that was not hard. So there is how people feel that they are not recognized first by their father, but also this servant, because the president and government is also a servant. So the relationship there is frail, very frail. It is a demonstration of indifference from the side of government, insensitivity. And if you are the father or the husband, and you are insensitive to your children, you are insensitive to your wife, they may not fight back, but you will know that they are sending a signal that you did not listen to us.
And usually in a home when they are sending signals,
Yes.
when people know that they are not listened to,
Yes.
I mean, the dynamics are pretty unpleasant, right?
Unpleasant, very unpleasant.
And then most importantly is that you are left to your own opinion.
Completely.
You no longer have the advantage
Yes.
of other household members in terms of decisions and direction. Now, one of the descriptions of a bad relationship,
Yes, yes.
of a bad love relationship, is abuse. When the relationship becomes abusive,
Yes.
right? And looking at the scenario right now, are there dynamics of the relationship between the government and its people that you want to describe as that you would describe as abusive?
Correct. You raised that, and people respond to abuse differently. And most people think that in the African case, it's the husbands who abuse their wives, and you know. But you see, your wife, I come from Kisii, and when neighbors used
Shabana FC land.
Oh, yeah, the Shabana Sila. But when wives used to be abused violently, they used to lock themselves in a room and shout in sharp voice. And they used to say very nasty things about their husbands. And one of them used to be like, "You think you're a man. You are not a man. You're nothing," and so on and so forth. So that is a way of saying, I can also do something that can hurt you. And of course, then violence is what is used from this other side. The love relationship has broken down. When a relationship breaks down, the first thing that goes out is love. Love goes out. And the love goes out when communication breaks down. So there's something that, there's an order. There's how those things operate. It's communication that fails, and when communication fails, then love goes, and then people start entering into abusive, into an abusive relationship. That is what is happening right now. It started from the fact that you did not listen, we didn't communicate, we failed to communicate to you. And because of that, you are not listening to us, so iyo ni madharau. So we are going to respond, and we are going to ensure that you hear what we are saying. And the government is saying, I am going to unleash all the mighty that I have to show you that I'm the one who is in charge, and I'll do what I want to do. That, in peace studies, is how you know that peace has actually now become the first victim. And that's what we saw here over the last several days. And you've seen the candles that are being lit across the country to remember those who were abused, those who were hurt. Let me use this opportunity to say that there is a certain targeting of the Luo community which needs to stop, because it has been there since independence, and you know the other governments as it was. It is in the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. It needs to stop. You need to look for a way of how you come to the table and you talk, so that when people are saying we are not heard, then they are not abused even more. So the centrality of this conversation is to say that governments are actually supposed to love their people.
Yeah.
The last show we had here, I was telling you of countries like Denmark, which were refunding during the COVID. They were returning taxes to the people so that people can spend the taxes to afford themselves gas and food and everything else. And that way, the economy was jump-started after it collapsed due to... these are countries where there are no prisons. You have they closed prisons all over the place, and they have about 3 prisons, and you go to a prison, there are 18 people there, and the people are being given taxes back. Governments are supposed to love the people,
Yeah.
to care for them, to protect them, to provide for them, not as in give them food, but to provide the framework
Okay.
within which people can be able to produce. And Kibaki showed us a good example in terms of how you provide for the people. He didn't go doling food, relief food around. He lowered interest rates and he lowered taxes. So everybody was able to borrow. A lot of people, my age mates tell me they bought their properties and they built during Kibaki's time. They were able to get 1 million, 3 million. They started businesses here and there, and they prospered. That's how government provides for its people, and then it protects them.
You know, when you mentioned Kibaki, he has become, you know, the standard in post-independent Kenya
Economic management.
about how he steered this government. But there's one thing that we need to tie in: the fact that we want the economic wit of Mwai Kibaki, but we do not want his value system. We don't want especially his reconciliatory spirit, who was a peaceable man. And so how do you expect to do the prowess of Kibaki while discarding his actually commendable value system?
You know, you bring it out so well. I feel like we should just stop there and ask Kenyans, why can't we reach out? Do you remember that ministers of Kibaki's cabinet used to call press conferences and insult President Kibaki, and the following morning they are in cabinet with Kibaki? And you know, Kibaki used to come out and say, sasa wacha waongee, watamaliza, watanyamaza. And he spoke to us because we campaigned for him in 2002 very much as NCEC and the civil society organizations that I was working with. And he listened to what he told us when we said, we demanded that Moi must be tried, must be prosecuted, all the properties that he had taken and everything must be recovered back to the state. Kibaki said, if we now go on to follow Moi, when will we ever look where we are going? We will stop looking where we are going and start looking for Moi.
It's profound.
Mzee has handed over power. We are now in government. What is the business of starting to look for him? He said, now forget about that. Let us focus on what we can do. We are now in government. And he managed to silence us. I've given you the other example of what Ruto did. That style, where the state sets an arena, where if people want to demonstrate and form meetings there, the government is the one which asks, are you the people we've seen out there? Yes. What is it you are saying that, you know, we are complaining about this? Which minister did you go to? Did the minister refuse to respond to you? No. So then what are you doing out there? It completely changed the environment of government. And governance meant caring for people and enabling them to produce and to... So the values is where we ended the conversation
I
last
remember,
time.
yes.
And we said that in terms of the 4 R's, we must go back to start from the R of values. Restoration of values to this country. And which values are we talking about? We're talking about godly values. What does the Bible say? 2 cannot go together unless they agree. What does the Bible say? It is blessed that brothers live together.
And one other that was really striking me this week, as in the midst of the reflection of the tension, that
Come, let us reason together.
An ambition that turn your swords
into plowshares.
Exactly. How powerful is that?
It is so powerful.
Yeah.
So
and learn war no more.
So we are not, it's not like we are going to start looking for where are these values. The values are already there for us. Every day we are looking at what God has told us are the values of a people that prosper, that they don't fight, that they talk. Come, let us reason together.
Yeah.
So why are we struggling as if we do not have knowledge of how we will prosper?
All right. Cyprian, it's amazing just how quickly time runs. But before we wind up this conversation, there's one thing that the president has been appealing to, and this is the phrase that you will suffer for just a little while, and then after that, there shall come, a breakthrough, a great harvest. Now, sounds almost like a biblical verse, that you will suffer for just a little while. What he's really appealing for is sacrifice. And sacrifice is part of love, right? It is. There's no love without sacrifice. Now, I want to just you to briefly put that under a lens and look at the nature of sacrifice that the president is asking for and its validity.
I'll say three things very quickly on that. Number one is that sacrifice is on both sides. The people ought to sacrifice and government needs to sacrifice. What we are seeing in government is living large, wastage, profligacy, many trips, more offices, new cars, and all that. Corruption. That's what we are seeing in government. And you're telling people, tighten your belts. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when people have come from COVID, they don't have jobs, 17 million of them and everything else. What are you asking them to sacrifice? It is your responsibility to ask, how do we, first of all, give them food and electricity so that then they can come out of HDU and ICU so that they can be on their feet to go to work. That's the sacrifice. You can't ask people who are in hospital to sacrifice. What are they sacrificing?
Already sacrificed people.
They have already sacrificed. They need nutrients for them to actually rise out of the bed and heal so that they can be on their feet and go work. So it is actually not an honest. The last point is that the president needs to listen to experts from all sectors, not one individual, not two individuals, who are forcing him to implement IMF, World Bank recommendations. This I have to say with all honesty, all my 20-something years working in the public sector in this country, IMF, it is said, if IMF praises you, you are killing your people. If IMF condemns you, like they condemned Kibaki, you are doing something right. One of the things that Kibaki did is he told all ministers that none of them shall contract an IMF loan and World Bank. So Akna Mokta Diop used to crawl into minister's office and plead. And they all used to say, the president will not accept that. Because the president said, we must live within our means. So we have asked the president that do simple things, and it will take us a long way. So don't ask for sacrifice. Very finally, is that it is not about the sacrifice that is important. It's about the direction you are taking the country. President Ruto is moving in the wrong direction. That's the problem with the policies that he has put in place. They are moving in the wrong direction. President Kibaki got it right on day one. He got into office, the following day he announced the direction of free primary education. 1.3 million more school recruitments, etc. There is a direction that is the correct direction. So it's not about speed, it's about direction. Are we moving in the right direction with these policies? The answer is no. These policies are going to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And that's what the people are saying. 93%. They are saying, David Indi and your advisors are advising you to take up policies that are going to destroy us, and we are in hospital.
All right. Cyprian, thank you always for your views, your perspectives. We trust that as the viewers listen to these views, then they're able also to digest them and also see what value they can be able to get from these perspectives. Thank you very much. A very important point that the important thing is it's not so much the speed, but the direction. But also very, very important is to know that peace is the air that a country breathes. Without it, it's not good news. So keep it. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.
Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel that they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking,
Real talk on real issues.
You know, the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
When the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi.